Good morning. Happy Monday. Happy Moon Day, everyone. If any of you have seen my latest post, thank you so much for reading. But for those of you who haven't, I probably haven't introduced myself to you yet. My name's Alyssa. I run and own Bloom to Fruit Tarot. And I am doing these weekly tarot messages for the week ahead every Monday morning. I will be holding off on doing the oracle card for the lunar phases because it is a new moon today. I do intend on posting a little something about setting an intention for the new moon, but I want to keep these videos short because I've had some trouble with posting them to IG Live after things get deleted and stuff. So I want to make sure that I think 15 minutes is the max or something like that. I just want to make sure I fit it all in. So today, our beacon card is the 13th card in the Major Arcana. And the number 13, actually, Friday the 13th was this past weekend. And if you think about the way that as a society we view Friday the 13th, there are horror movies that are named after it, and a lot of negative things sometimes tend to happen in some people's lives. They do have bad experience with Friday the 13th. But the reality is that in ancient times, the number 13 was seen as a divine feminine force. And if you look at the reason why, I completely understand. It has to do with the amount of lunar cycles there are in a year. There are 13, even though there are 12 months that we live by. There are 13 lunar cycles, and the moon represents the divine feminine ever-flowing water. And Venus is the planet that rules over Friday. So when you put those two feminine forces together, yes, they can become somewhat dark. And I suppose for people that are pushing against that energy and don't want to embrace it, that certain conflicts and strange things can happen, or emotional reactions that maybe you weren't quite expecting. But looking just at the number 13, if you think about the moon cycles, and how even within one moon cycle, there are smaller cycles, right? Because the new moon is dark, and that's a yin phase. And then as the moon becomes to get a little bit bigger and is a crescent moon, there's a yang phase, so taking action. But then right after that, again, a yin phase. So a lot of rest, action. And if you look at the card that we are using in the deck that we're using, that's represented with the name of this card, because it isn't just the name death, it also is named rebirth. So that reminds us that even while we are in one place in a cycle, there are so many micro cycles within that one aspect, and also within our own lives. So tune into the moon's energy this week if you do feel some uncomfortable feelings come about, and maybe some shadow sides from the darker feminine coming out. Just feel into where you are in your own personal cycle. Do you need to rest? Do you need to be taking action right now? Because simultaneously we are in all of these cycles at the same time. So this card also makes me think of the journey of a metamorphosis from being a caterpillar to a butterfly. And if you think of that, it looks beautiful for us as we're viewing it. But when you look at what's happening inside the cocoon for the caterpillar's body is literally turning to black mush. It's dying, but at the same time, it's not dead. It is just rebirthing and into something that will be much better for it in the long run. It will have wings. It'll be able to fly. It will bring beauty to the earth. There are so many other things that we won't be able to see until we're on that side of it. So just remember that if you do feel like you are a pile of, like you just feel like you've literally been broken down to nothing, this is all so that you can rebuild eventually. But take this time to dive into that, and don't be afraid of the darker feminine energies and the darker emotions, because the only way to heal is through them, is through actually embracing them and feeling them, and maybe even asking them questions. So keep in mind that this applies to us as well as a society. We're all going through our own cycles of death at the moment, but as a society, we are as well. We're entering the age of Aquarius right now, which is coming off of 2,000 years of the age of Pisces, which is kind of what brought the rise of the patriarchy. So now we're looking at seeing things with a new lens and having a different perspective, and maybe something that no one ever would expect, because Aquarius is that strange but really positive, but not everyone is convinced by it just yet energy. So as a society, let's remember that our ideals, that our plans or expectations for our society's future can change now, in probably the next week. I'm sure the next year, this is going to be a focus for us as well. But if you see discomfort arising in people around you, remember that it's not just you that's going through this. They are as well, and maybe their jobs are at stake, or maybe they're questioning their jobs, or a lot of other factors in their life, or maybe you begin to do that. Just stay aware and don't make any quick decisions just yet. But if there are people that need to be let go of, or if there are activities that are draining you that need to be let go of, now is the time. It is a new moon as well, so it's great for letting go of things and acknowledging your own habits and potentially limiting beliefs or traits that you maybe want to start working on altering and changing a little bit, because letting go of traits of your own isn't actually possible if you haven't actually spent the time with them to accept them and try to understand them, or at least just let them be there. So I do recommend, if you feel like doing something physical to represent this purging and letting go, I like to do, and I'm sure you have wanted to do this in the past, like to do a release ceremony where you burn a piece of paper with all of the things that don't make you feel good anymore, that you won't be participating in, or certain relationships that you'll have to let go of. And of course, there are certain nuances around each of these things and actions and boundaries we have to take. So remember that just letting go of them isn't the only thing that you have to do. Sometimes you need to close doors and take certain people off of places where you can see them, and social media and stuff like that. So it doesn't end at that. Remember that in this rebirth, you are going to be a person that decides to handle these things differently. So in closing these things off, how can you begin that rebirth and even finish these relationships with things or people off on a better note, on a different note that you really want to do? I also want to mention, if you're doing that ceremony where you want to burn a piece of paper, if you want to tune into the cyclical nature, you can walk in the shape of a spiral, and then once you get to the center of it, burn the piece of paper. Take a few deep breaths, ground yourself, and then walk back out of it. This shape is called a labyrinth, and I actually have one of these, like a 2.5 minute walk from my apartment. So I do this quite often. And this is one of the rituals that as a kid, I didn't burn anything, but I found myself playing with friends and walking in this direction, in this symbol. And I didn't quite know why until I found this labyrinth in Alberta last year. So yeah, give that ritual a try if you're interested. And I'll move on to our intuitive card pull of the week. And this is of the Suit of Wands. Wands is fire energy. It's of passion and things that really ignite us and energize us. And the number 2, again, is a feminine force. But the Wands energy is more of a masculine energy. So in this card, you have been preparing for taking the next step in something that really ignites your heart, and maybe that next step requires connecting to people. This card tells us that we're getting there. If you feel that there's an opportunity that comes about this week, this is the time to take action on it. Obviously, be patient and be discerning, because you don't want absolutely every opportunity that knocks on your door. Not every opportunity is aligned with this new birthed version of you. But now is the time to start thinking about the qualities of, your own rebirth. What is that going to look like? Because you want to start pulling in people that hold those qualities as well. So in this card, I feel a lot of energy surrounding calling in your soul family, calling in the people that have the same interests as you and will collaborate with you in a way that your heart will work with on the same level. And if you look at this card, she's got the globe here. There's a Volkswagen van as well. So this does resemble, she's been planning on taking the step for a while. Like she has an idea of where she wants to go. And this is the universe telling us that now's the time to start making those connections, reach out to people, start talking to people about the things that you're interested in. Do what you've been waiting to do. Start to make those first steps. And I also wanted to mention that sometimes this feeling comes up and there's a lot of fear around it. And we might be able to tell ourselves, well, this isn't the right time. I'm not ready. I'm not prepared. I'm not good enough yet. And this card reminds us that you just have to take the first step. None of your other beliefs, first of all, are relevant because they're not true. All of this truth is honestly just made up in our heads. But also that you don't have to be ready to take the first step. And I don't think anyone really has been ready to take the first step. Like when you do something for the first time, there's always going to be nerves. There's always going to be things that you forget. There's always going to be mistakes. And if you accept that as a part of the journey, then it might make it a little bit easier to take that first step this week. And maybe that first step is, embracing the death energy and getting rid of some people so that you can make space for others. Because remember, when you do enter a new stage of rebirth, there has to be room for the rebirth. If you look at the caterpillar, the entire body of it has to literally dissolve in order for the butterfly to emerge. So don't get too caught up in that discomfort. Remember that this is all happening for a reason. And if you want another ritual to connect to the higher self that you are going to be in this rebirth, as well as calling in people with those same qualities, well, you can just meditate. And maybe you can light a candle before you meditate to call in your highest self or your ancestors that are healed and want the best for you. And ask them what some of the qualities, some of the verbs about the person that you are becoming and the people that you are going to surround yourself with are. And after that, you can write that down. And whenever, you feel like you want to harness manifestation energy and you've got a lot of it, or even if you feel down, you can look at that piece of paper and remind yourself that, first off, you already are all of those things. The fact that you recognize those things tells us that you are them. And that you will soon be surrounded by people that hold you in a space where you can be all those qualities, and they are those qualities as well, and they can help you strive to be that person. So I hope that was relevant for you. I will probably be posting something shortly about the new moon, but thank you so much for watching and tuning in. And if you do have time to leave a comment on the relevance of this, I'd love to hear below. If you are on YouTube, you can go ahead and subscribe. And if you aren't following me yet on Instagram, go ahead and, I guess it would be down here, follow me on Instagram there. Have a great week, everyone. Good luck with all of this intense death and rebirth energy, and I will see you next week. Lots of love.